I grew up with mosaics in my childhood home. My dad did mosaics as a hobby in college,
Mm-hmm.
and his first mosaic was a table that was inspired by an American scientific front cover. And fast forward 20 something years, a friend said, "Hey, I heard about a mosaics class at a pottery studio. Are you interested?" And I was like, heck yeah.
Well, hello. How are you, Julie?
Doing great. How are
Awesome.
you?
I'm doing good. It's a nice, crisp fall day here in Atlanta, so I'm really enjoying that.
That's awesome. We're getting some cooler weather down here in Miami as well this weekend. So
Wow.
finally, sweater weather.
I guess you can enjoy a few days out of the year with that, right?
Oh, please. Everybody gets their boots out and they put sweaters on. And I mean, I think the high is going to be 72 on Saturday, and
Wow.
everybody will be
It's
very
boot and
cozy.
sweater weather. I love it.
And I grew up with mosaics in my childhood home. My dad did.
I've been checking out your channel for a while and just looking at your backstory, just very excited about having you on to talk about what you do and how you got involved and even, you know, how maybe it's in your blood a little bit. So from what I read, so introduce yourself, tell us the name of your company and what you do, and we'll just go as we go.
Okay, my name is Julie Weilbacher. My business name is Mosaic Madness,
Hmm.
and I fell into this. I was looking for a hobby, and I grew up with mosaics in my childhood home. My dad did mosaics as a hobby in college
Hmm.
at the insistence of a roommate, and he enjoyed it, but he never followed that path. He taught chemistry and physics,
Mm.
but he loved mosaics as just a hobby. And his first mosaic was a table that was inspired by an American scientific front cover. That was a magazine. Leave it to
Yeah.
the scientists to, bring that into his art. And I was always intrigued. And at one point, that table was in my childhood bedroom. And
Ah,
I can just remember looking at it and marveling at the colors and, what were these squares made of and what was the material behind or between the actual colored squares.
mm-hmm.
And fast forward 20 something years, a friend said, "Hey, I heard about a mosaics class at a pottery studio. Are you interested?" And I was like, heck yeah, sign me up. And both of us just fell in love with mosaics immediately.
Wow.
And the instructor was about our age. She was super cool. And it was just one of those classes where you painted your own tiles and you left them, they glazed them and fired them. And by the time you came back to the next class, that was when you got to break them. And
Ah.
the instructor, she was awesome. And but she only had a hammer for us to break the tile. And it's great for getting your frustration out, but what we noticed was we were sort of decimating these tiles that we so lovingly painted.
Yes.
And I mentioned this to my dad in between the first class and the second class, and he was like, "I might have my tile nippers if you want to take it." I'm like, "Yes."
Mm.
And I took them in, and the instructor was like, "What are those?" And we sort of learned how to use them right there in class. Now, keep in mind, this was in the mid 90s, so there
Mm-hmm.
was no internet. All we had
Yes.
were books.
The good old days.
And yeah, yeah. And so we learned how to use the tile nippers. And that was really where I was like, oh, yeah, I want more of this. And so I took a few classes with her and then really got into, okay, well, I want to incorporate glass into mosaic, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn how to break down plates, cups, and bowls and include them into mosaics. And beads, and like I was ready. Um, but the thing was, she only taught, how to paint tile and break them
Mm,
down. And so it really was sort of the wild, wild west. I just, through trial and error, I would just try things and buy
yeah.
different hand tools. And I really felt pretty lost. I made a lot of errors, which is great,
It is. That's how
because I
we
learned
learn a
from them.
lot. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And so fast forward to now, and through all of that, I was making art and I was selling it, and then people would see what I made and they wanted to learn. So I started teaching, I started putting together workshops. And it was during COVID
Mm.
where my son said, "Why don't you start a YouTube channel?" And I was like, "Huh? What do you
Don't
mean?"
you love that out of the mouth of babes and youth? They're
Yeah,
they're all entwined and enmeshed in that. They know a lot.
totally. Totally. And it was just the little nudge that I needed. And since the world was sort of slowed down at that
Mm-hmm.
time, I
Yeah.
started watching videos on YouTube on how to edit video, because to me that was the big, like, I don't know how to do that. And started watching videos, and it it was very similar to me when, because I used to work in magazine publishing.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at the screen of what the video editors were doing in their videos, and it looked very familiar to me from when I used to paginate magazines.
Ah, paginate.
And
That's a word you don't hear every day. You'll have
and
to tell us more
I
about that at some point.
yeah, and so and I was watching these videos where they were using much more sophisticated software than I
Mm,
was in my iMovie. But because you only have two channels for audio and two channels for the video.
mm-hmm.
And but it just clicked for me, and I just started filming. I just started
Wow.
filming and started at the very beginning, like Julie Andrews. We're going to start from the very beginning. And I started to think about all of those things that when I was a beginner, all of those questions that I had that took me forever to find the answers to.
Mm.
So
That's an
I
interesting
just,
motivation for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, where is the potential viewer at? Where are they hung up? And what is keeping them from diving in or moving forward or learning something new? And so I just started with all of those things that I can remember that really hung me up.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I could shorten their learning curve.
That is
And that
cool.
was really the beginning. And then things just sort of took off. In the comments, people would, then say, "Oh, well, if you're going to do a video on that, I would really love X, Y, and Z." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Nice.
So really, if you're a beginner in something, you don't know what you don't know. And so I kind
Mm-hmm.
of had to spoon feed in the beginning, but now, my community is coming up with all sorts of questions on things, and I don't know all of it. And so I'm learning as well, which is exciting.
That is very exciting. So, I mean, that must have been just really incredible for you to start out. And then, you've got like what, nearly 30,000 followers on YouTube at this point.
Getting there. Remember
Yeah.
to sign up and subscribe,
That's right, everyone.
as
Um,
well as to yours as well.
I know, like that journey is so interesting in talking to everyone because, that's a bit of a part of our goal too, is to increase the awareness in the community because there's so many different facets of people that are involved with working with tile. So that's what's been really fun. And like you, I totally get it. May I just add, social media is a whole other thing,
Oh, oh, yes, preach, preach.
Yes.
It is you go into whatever it is you're into. So for me it's mosaic art. And that is not what I went to school for, but you go into, thinking, oh, I'm going to make art. That's what I love to do. That's where I'm in my, zone of genius.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is you've still got to get the word out there about your artwork or
Right.
your channel. And again, that's been a lot of uh, do and learn and consistently do and learn. And so that's also been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's also been something that I have enjoyed.
I
But I
bet.
can easily see how people who are anti-social media are just, nope, I'm not going to do social media. And I do see how it helps tremendously to get the word out,
Mm-hmm. And that's
regarding either
been
your art or whatever.
exactly the business you're in, whatever. And I'm telling you, man, now that I know that you take requests, I might be requested. Julie, tell us how you did this. How did you grow your audience?
It's showing up. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I would show up and a video would get, you know, 10 views, 20 views. And I would, and in the beginning, I was
Mm-hmm.
putting out a video a week,
Mm-hmm.
and which is now insane. Like, I can't imagine doing a video a week now because I'm still, each video is sort of like one of my magazines when I was back in publishing. So I didn't do the magazines from start to finish,
Mm-hmm.
but I oversaw every aspect of the magazine. Well, now with each video, I'm literally the photographer,
Yes.
the, script writer,
Project
the
overseer,
editor,
manager. Yes.
ah, all of it.
Julie, that's
Yeah.
a good point because we were even talking about this the other day. Just like it's not enough just to do your business these days. Now you got to be an expert because technology has made it so much easier to be our own videographers, our own editors, It back in the day, I mean, when I first started in video, that was unheard of. So now that we have all this, our own advertisers and marketers now, I mean, it really is all in our hands. And it's exciting yet daunting until you get a hold of it.
Right, right. So, it is hard. And I do feel like I took baby steps.
Mm,
I mean, I researched editing probably longer than I should have.
mm,
And on my channel, I'm always saying to viewers, there's no great time to start. Just jump in. Nobody needs to know what you're making. You don't need to share it with anybody. But, because then you're sort of a little more loose and free with what you experiment and try with.
right.
Um, but if you mentally sort of cap yourself, like, well, everything that I do has to be perfect because I'm going to be sharing it, and it does do a number
Limits
on you.
you. Yeah, it limits you
Yeah.
in a way, right?
Yeah.
Because you think that it's got to be, like you just said, perfect. And none of us are perfect, and we're doing doing our best. So, yes.
Right, right. And I'll share with you, I had a video come out last week, and it was the first time that I did a live tutorial.
Mm,
So as I was making the mosaic item, I was talking you through what I was doing, why I chose to do the things that I did, a lot of behind the scenes. And it was definitely like it was an hour and a half long video. I've never done that long
mm,
before. And so the video is out, and I knew probably it wasn't going to do as well because an hour and a half, like, who's going to sit there unless you're sitting there making your mosaics or you've got time to burn? An hour and a half is a long time, but it was a format I wanted to try.
mm-hmm.
So the video comes out, I'm reading the comments. Everybody's like, wow, do another video like this. And then there's one
Wow.
comment that said, wow, what a shame that we missed that part where you adhere the item to the mosaic substrate. And I thought, what? Of course that's in there. And I rewatched the video on YouTube to make sure
Mm.
I was watching with it. And sure enough, I didn't edit it in. I totally missed that part, and it's a
Oh, my
vital,
goodness.
critical part. And so this week, the video on my channel is I had to admit, whoops, but you need to see this in order to put your whole project together. You need to see, how did I do this part? But, that's the
It
nature
happens.
it happens, and we're
Totally.
all human. But
Exactly.
I can remember, or I can imagine when I first started the channel that I would have really been fretting that I had done
Mm-hmm.
that. But I've built this consistency with my community, and I had, I felt bad that I sort of left them hanging, but I also knew I'm going to make good with this. I'm going to
Yeah.
ask for their forgiveness or whatever and put it out there. And I didn't stress about it because I
Like,
knew, I'm going to put it out there. But
and
that
I
is the
love that you
nature of
added.
all that.
It is so true, and that you just added it as like, it does happen. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. But it's funny you mentioned that because something I put out last week has a weird edit loop that just kept going on, and somebody had to bring that to my attention.
In case
And
you
I'm
didn't get it the first time, here it is
right
again.
here, and it didn't finish its thought. That's the funny thing. So I went,
Oh, no. Oh,
"Arg."
no.
I love that. As we do go along, especially with technology, because it always, like even last week, I had to do it on my phone, which I prefer to do it on my computer. But for some reason, I couldn't get it, the internet moving. Well, I wanted know a little bit more about, because I was looking up, Mosaic Madness, and then you also has a home, garden, wedding, life. Tell us a little bit about all of those the sub topics there.
Um, I really think mosaics works anywhere. Mosaic
Mm-hmm.
art is so appealing in different places. So obviously home, that's a given.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Home decor, absolutely. And that could be anything. A bowl, a lamp, a
A
letter
table.
opener, a
Yeah.
table, a
Yeah.
coaster, whatever. And the wedding part was I started getting hired to make wedding favors, guest favors for
Mm.
bride and grooms. And that was really something that I had never considered. But I
Mm-hmm.
love how other people look at my art and say, oh, that would fit in my life this way. And when I got married, I decided that I wanted to make a full-size mosaic wedding cake and have it professionally photographed, and that would be the logo or the icon for all of my printed goods for the wedding.
That's great.
And I ended up having that cake on display at the reception, and people were taking their pictures with it. It was really sort of its own little celebrity. Because you see it really small on an invitation, and you just can't imagine like how big is this thing?
How
Is it
big
even
was
real?
it?
It's full size. It's 4 layers.
Wow.
It's 4 layers. And and then I also did for my wedding, everybody got a mosaic color block coaster, which was also fun because they came in 4 different colorways, and people were trading them
Mm.
like they were Pokemon cards. And I would go around to each of the tables to say hello to the guests and all of that, and they would say, "Hey, you gave me a blue one, but I traded with so and so who has the red one or the hot colors one. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm fine if you guys are.
Exactly.
I don't care." And sort of uh I didn't intend for this to happen, but there were many people who were like, "Well, I need the rest of the set. I'm going to order the rest of the set." And that was not my intention. I was simply bringing in the colors, and I wanted them to have a mosaic because by and
That's part
large,
of who
that's
you
probably the
are.
only, yeah, and it's probably the only mosaic they're going to have from me unless they're just a real big fan of
Mm-hmm.
mosaic art. And so let's see, home. Oh, I skipped garden. Home
Yeah.
garden, something for the garden, whether you make a sculpture in the garden or it just mosaics and the outdoors and mosaics and plants. It's just such a beautiful combination to have the softness of the plants with the hard materials of
Mm-hmm.
mosaic. It just, especially if you have like a pop of color in amongst, all this greenery,
And
and then
life,
life,
yes.
life. So, that could be things like a belt buckle or a necklace or a pair of earrings or, you know, a letter opener. So
Mm-hmm.
it really, to me, mosaics can hit so many different areas in your life and holidays, and it's universal.
It is.
In addition to the amount of materials that you can use. I mean, because really nothing's off limits.
That seems so true. And I mean, and it's such an ancient art too, which is so
It
fun
really
to
is.
be tied into that as well. It's incredible.
Absolutely.
What
It
are what is
is.
what are some of the weirdest things that you can imagine that you've done that you've incorporated into some of your designs, like objects or elements?
There was a bride who collected things at her bachelorette party
Mm-hmm.
and wanted them incorporated into a frame because the group took a photo together. And so I incorporated things, and it was, some of the beer bottle caps and some, there was a spoon stolen from a kitchen somewhere. No. But that was I was sort of like, okay, we've got a bunch of bottle caps. I get that. What's the spoon? Because you might think, what did we do with that spoon? But
Yeah,
it
that's
was just
curious.
it was stolen from a kitchen because somebody was having yogurt. Now, how yogurt tied into a late night bachelorette party, but they must have been walking through a kitchen and just grabbed, at the hotel. Oh, let's see. What are some other weird things? I mean, I've certainly, I made a mosaic where I only used mug handles
Mm.
to imitate the curls of a sheep.
Oh yeah.
Um, and uh, gosh, what else? These don't sound wild and crazy, but I really, I mean, I look at everything as potential material. So
Exactly.
I don't look at dinner plates as, oh, wow, I can imagine a beautiful meal on this plate. I look at it as, should it break? Okay, no big deal. I don't mind. Um,
I could see you at a
I
party somewhere and like just edge something you really want off. Oh shoot, darn!
right. I'm
I guess
so
I can use it
sorry.
now.
I mean, I even look at silverware like that because you can pound
Mm-hmm.
it flat and incorporate it. But yeah, I don't fret over broken dishes, and I do collect a lot of dishes.
So, are you back to teaching in person?
No, I
Mm.
am not. It's hard.
Yeah.
I really quieted that in-person teaching down after I had my son. Really
Mm-hmm.
before, I mean, I think I taught my last, well, I guess I've had a couple private classes one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, the group settings and just go, go, go. I really quieted that down probably when I was about 8 months pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had my son. He did have some medical challenges, which I just put the brakes on everything.
I can imagine.
And yeah, and probably when he was about 8 or 9, and things really sort of quieted down, and I could see that there was like normalcy returning.
Mm-hmm.
I got back into mosaics, but I still felt lost, oddly burnt out, even though
Mm.
I wasn't doing it. I questioned, although I loved making mosaic art, I did question my desire.
Mm.
I had done it for so many years. I mean, this is my 26th year.
Wow.
And, you know, I don't know. I just taking a step back didn't help. And
Mm.
I really was sad because I thought, well, maybe this is it. Maybe I need to find something else. And then I just started doing a little bit here and there. I would get these little bursts of inspiration and would do the thing. Whatever the
Yeah.
thing was that I was like, let me just see, I think it was more important just to do, regardless of how it turned out.
Right.
And so I
Take the
did. I
pressure off,
just,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Don't use your best stuff because, we all like, oh, I'm saving this special thing. So I didn't
Oh,
like use my
right.
special materials or whatever, but it was more like just get back on the bike. And
Yes.
so I did. And my son, that's when he was like, why don't you have a YouTube channel? And that really was what pulled me back in, was starting that channel, doing the research on how to edit, remembering back to those hard times when I didn't know how to do something
Mm-hmm.
with particular materials or whatever. And just having that desire to help somebody else was huge for me.
I
So
love
that
that.
really turned it around for me. And then to sit there and actually do the editing, I left publishing. I loved magazine publishing. And but it was a difficult time during 9/11. And
Yes,
because
I read about that.
all of our magazines were travel based. And so
Mm-hmm.
when 9/11 happened, nobody's traveling. A lot of our magazines were shelved
Mm-hmm.
temporarily, and it was just a hard time. But
Yes.
I left because things were a little more volatile, and I did have this tugging: could I make a living doing mosaic art? But yeah, during COVID, just doing the research on how to edit and falling in love with that process as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, I love doing the mosaics. I love doing the editing. I love taking photos. So the content creation for social media, like it
Mm-hmm.
just was a perfect storm for me. And all of these things, I was suddenly just, oh my gosh, I love what I do every day.
Wow.
And so I'm thankful and grateful for that, because I really was like, should I hang it up? I don't know.
Isn't that interesting? I find that so how all these different elements are interwoven, like the magazine background that you had. And now it is very similar, especially on Instagram, uh, it's, you're laying out different, photos and ways to, catch the eye and all of that, which is part of that whole thing with magazines, right? Get the
Right,
interest. But
right,
and then your son, which is so funny, you took a step back with your son, but then years later, here he's the one who suggests there's that interwoven thing again.
right,
You getting
right.
on
He was
YouTube.
at he was at that age where he was playing Fortnite, and he
Ah,
was watching a lot of YouTube videos on how to get past a thing in the game.
oh
So he
yeah,
was watching gamers, and he would see these kids who probably were his age or not much older, who had their own channels, and he just put two
ah,
and two together. Mom does this thing. I know mom has taught this thing. Why don't you have a channel? And
it's
I'm
so great.
thankful that he nudged me, you know?
It's so funny because I'm one of those weird nerdy geeks where I absolutely love YouTube. Like even before doing this, I would be on it every day listening to podcasts, watching how to do things, just like you were saying. I literally don't even watch TV anymore. So
Same,
I
same.
watch YouTube.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
become
Everything's
America's
there.
TV. Yeah. All over
Absolutely.
the world too. We're so unlimited with it, which is why I love it. So
It's like we learned so much from YouTube, and I'm sure you can relate. I'm so happy to be part of that
mhm.
because I want to educate people. And although I'm thankful for learning the hard way,
Mhm.
I want to educate them to keep them interested. So whether that's them learning a tool, inspiring them with a project or a particular material that they hadn't considered using. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if they're interested and they are looking for a channel that can help them, I don't want to lose them. I don't want them to just watch one video. I want them to walk away saying, oh, I have the confidence to do that now. Like, she did that. It looks so easy,
Isn't
you
that
know?
awesome feeling to contribute to people's lives like that?
Absolutely.
And it's free information. I mean, I've
It is.
I've had to do a couple things to my car, like replace this part or this part. And it's so gratifying whenever I can get on YouTube and find something that just will show me how to do that.
Right.
Not the motor.
Absolutely.
Not going to go there. It's only going to be like, a few things that I messed up here and there or somehow. I backed out of the garage one day and somehow just the tiniest bit, my side mirror just clipped it and the whole thing came off. I'm like, really? So I figured out how to put it together again. Really
You
cool.
go, girl.
Mm.
Wow.
I think it's the product of being the youngest of 5 girls, and my dad said, look, I'm going to teach you guys all how to do a few things that I don't have to worry about you.
Right, right. Well, I learned how to mix cement by hanging out with my dad.
I love
And
it.
I hated it. I was like, why isn't my brother? I was like, why isn't he here helping you? Like, I don't want to be doing this. Well, and now I mix cement.
And isn't that ironic? Again, interweaving our lives. Now, are your parents still living, Julie?
My mom is still living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was curious how your dad felt about you getting into doing this.
He was so proud. He was so proud. He never saw the YouTube channel come to light, but he was so proud that I did it. And I would always sort of nudge him like, hey, you want to sit down one day and like just work on mosaics together? But he wasn't interested, but he would sit down and watch me make mosaics.
That's so
And
sweet.
he would contribute like, color wise, like, oh, this would look good in this color or whatever. But he had no desire to ever get back into it. But he was very, very creative.
Oh, another thing that you do that you inspire me about. And I was telling my sister this too. I was like, oh my gosh, you got to do this. And that is the way that, like, I was looking at your link tree and the way that you've got just all the stuff that you buy and list on Amazon and all of that. Can you tell us a little bit about that and that inspiration to create that part of it?
That is part of that whole mindset of let me shorten your learning curve, basically. Oftentimes people ask, oh, where do I get the such and such? Or where did you find this tool? How can I get that adhesive? And so now by linking that, obviously I get a small commission. It's of no charge to the folks who click through and buy, but it is, literally, here's what I used in the tutorial. I used this substrate and this adhesive and these tools. And just what can I do besides literally sitting there with you, which I can't, but and working the tool for you and doing like what are all of those things that I can do to help you get you to that starting line. And so I give you the instruction, I give you the list of everything that I include in the project, and basically
that way you get them set up to go.
Absolutely.
But as a business person, I gotta say, it seems like you've got this artist side of you, but you've also got this business side of you, which I think is so great because, like you just said, when you want, of course, 9/11 happened, and that helped to inspire you to go, maybe I can do this, and then you went into that. But to have those goals and to really follow those dreams, but then to make it work as a business, I just thought that was really genius. So I just wanted to tell you that because that inspired me.
Thank you.
I didn't even know that honestly, you helped me figure out Linktree, which I'm now using. And then also, I didn't even know that you could do the thing that you do on Amazon, which, hey, if you're doing, your audience a service by giving them the shortcut, and then, Amazon's obviously getting sales and you get, a slice of it. Hey, that's perfectly awesome.
Right, right. And sometimes it's not Amazon. Sometimes it's somewhere
Could be
else.
somebody else,
So
yes.
and so I don't want them to go down the Amazon rabbit hole and then say, where's this tool from?
Right.
Because I'm so deliberate in the information that I put out because I respect and trust my community, and I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I've built up that two-way communication that I don't want to do anything to mess it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm so careful with even the brands that I introduce to the audience or the materials, because
Mm-hmm.
they need to be vetted. I don't want a beginner to mosaics to use something that I haven't tried and then
Right.
they get frustrated. I'm trying to eliminate all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not trying to be a bulldozer, where I don't want you to have hard times. You're going to cut your fingers because look at the materials we're working with. But I am trying to ramp people up and just make it as easy as possible so that they enjoy it, you
That's
know?
that's it, because you are going to run into those. It's almost like buying a house. And I'm bringing this up only because I was telling my sister about this. She just recently bought another house, and there's what you see, right? And so just getting the project, okay, I got how much stuff, I got the instructions and all this, but there's always going to be something that comes into the mix that you don't count on. Just like when you buy a house, you're like, okay, well, I see this, it's been inspected, da da da, but there's always going to be something. So you
Right,
giving them that head start is just, it's just awesome. And obviously it's just caused your YouTube channel, which is your business, out to just blossom. And that's great. And I imagine
right.
you're still a consultant, or you make pieces for people for like their weddings or events and stuff still.
Right, right. I do. But now I'm able to be very selective because my time is so limited
Yeah.
for stuff like that. And sometimes I can sort of double up. So, for instance, I had a client who wanted some Christmas ornaments made from her wedding china.
Mm.
And so I was pressed for time and I said, would you mind if I made the ornaments while being filmed? And then you've got your ornaments. I won't mention your name,
Ah.
very limited information about you personally, but then I've got a video, because there's always something new that I can share in every video. There's always some little tip, you know, one adhesive may do a funny little thing as it
Mm-hmm.
cures. Well, I can, share that. Or sometimes when you're cutting a mug to break it down, this is where you want to put your nipper or, whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
there's always something new. And that is one of my goals every time I put out a video. What is a new thing, a new tip, a new whatever that I can put out there? And it may be that people aren't interested in making ornaments. They have no desire. But if they
Mm-hmm.
know I'm going to drop some truth bombs or some tips
Yeah.
in the video that they could use on their project, then they'll listen and they'll
Mm-hmm.
watch. And so that's really sort of the, let me put the information out there. I don't want to overwhelm and overload, which is why it's great, sprinkle it in amongst all the videos.
Mm-hmm.
But just I was able to double up by, making these items for this client, but then I also
And
had
do
a
a
video out
video.
of it.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
yeah.
So have you gotten any feedback um, from some of your viewers, how they've progressed or where they are now with their mosaic adventure?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Every week I get comments from people who will say, I watched such and such video, and it may have been about stepping stones or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
they took the information and they applied it to a table that they made, or they will, thank me that I was the one that helped them get started, or that I, taught them how to use a particular tool. And it's
Mm-hmm.
very, very gratifying because obviously I can't interact other than through text, in messages.
Mm-hmm.
But it's super gratifying because I think back to beginner Julie, who, felt so lost. And I didn't have anybody to ask questions about or share, like, hey, you made a difference in my Mosaic journey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I am the type of person where if somebody's made a difference, I will let them know. I
Yes.
just, whatever the thing is, like, hey, you told me where to buy the best strawberries. Thank you so much. Or, like
Exactly.
whatever it is. So it's incredibly gratifying.
Mm-hmm. To have that feedback. I can
Absolutely.
imagine. Any big
Absolutely.
plans on the horizon that with the channel, or it's just continue doing and delivering as you have been?
I um I have been approached probably for the last couple of years to teach a course. And I'm not really sure what that course is going to be because there are maybe 4 or 5 things that folks have seen in my videos that are just sort of like snippets of videos or images. And they're like, oh, hey, how did you do that?
Mm.
And so I hope to do a course or two.
Mm.
Um, and then, like we were talking about with business, there are a lot of some marketing things that I would like to get into more. Um, I have just started doing some printable downloads, which one of them is a grout thin set recipe card.
Mm.
There are 16 different um, things that can go into mixing up your grout or thin set, especially if you're going to color or tint your grout or thin set. And
Right.
so this just allows you to keep a record, especially if you create a color where you are just like, I love
Wow.
this color, or I want a signature color and this is it. So this just gives you a written record of 16 items that you need to, jot down to recreate that color.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
I I also did. I also have a printable download of 27 questions that if you were interviewing the mosaic that you were making or wanted to make, rather, what would those 27 questions be? And it's basically everything that you need to consider before you get started. So, where is this mosaic eventually going to be placed? Is it
Mm.
indoors? Is it outdoors? Um, is it going to be at eye level or on a table? Will people touch it?
Mm.
What are the materials? What's the design? Do you have authorization to use that design? Is it an original design or are you copying
Mm.
somebody's work?
Mm-hmm.
Tools you're going to need. And basically by the end of that list, you can establish your timeline, financially how much this project is going to take.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some other printable downloads. Well, a couple of them are a little further down the road, but in the process of being made. But so I've got some of those. I definitely need to get on TikTok. I know I need to get on TikTok. I
Oh, the
keep being told I
TikTok,
need to get on
yes.
TikTok.
Unless it gets banned
So
by the U.S. government, who we don't know.
right, right. So I think in 2025 I'm going to continue with what I'm doing. I've got a long list of I'm never short of video ideas. So thank
Yes.
goodness for that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to continue to be a mix of tutorials, a mix of um things on let's say specialty cuts or tools or special grouts,
Ah, ha,
a special
ha.
grout, right?
Indeed. I love
Indeed.
it.
We have an awesome special grout coming in 2025.
I'm excited.
I am too. Um,
Awesome.
and, just I think more, I feel like I'm in a groove with my channel, and now I need to get in a groove business wise as
Mm-hmm.
well. So it's just a mishmash of things, and I absolutely love it.
I think that's amazing. I was thinking when you said something about marketing, um, do you or have you got approached by different manufacturers of promoting it, being an influencer in that sense?
Yes. So I just recently received two very heavy boxes of Weld Bond adhesive.
Ah,
And they had reached out to me, and I thought, okay, I'm going to get a couple bottles, And when I opened it, it was 12 bottles of like 420 milliliter bottles,
oh my
and then
goodness.
two huge 3-liter jugs of Well
Wow.
Bond. And I do have folks reach out to me. There's a book publisher who's sending me some books, one for me, one for a giveaway. I'm trying to put a giveaway together
That's cool.
for the holidays. So I want to spread the kindness out there, pay it forward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I do have tile manufacturers who reach out to me,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's got to be a good fit. So, not all tile is, uh, although all tile is beautiful, it's
Mm-hmm.
not always going to be good for a mosaic artist, especially, some of the thicker stuff. And again, I'm not trying to turn anybody off from getting started in mosaics.
Mm-hmm.
So, I need to make sure that the materials that I incorporate and introduce are, things that won't frustrate people,
That
basically.
fit what you do. Yeah, exactly. But I could totally see that. I could totally see that people would reach out. I mean, because my goodness, you have so many different types that you have in your project. So that feel like it'd be a natural fit on so many of them.
Right, right. And I don't want anybody to get bored. So if I'm
Mm,
always doing tutorials, some people, they don't need that inspiration. They need, how did you do such and such with that tool? So
mm-hmm.
I do try to mix it up because I also don't want to get bored. I don't, I mean,
Yes.
I have so many finished mosaics that haven't even been uploaded to my
Oh,
online store.
wow.
I have, so because for me, it's like the thrill, I don't want to say the thrill of the hunt, but the thrill of the making.
Mm-hmm.
So then when it's made, I'm like, oh, Ryan, I feel great. I don't carry the ball over the goal line. And
Ah,
part of that is if I'm not making it for a person or myself or a client, whatever, I need to, otherwise you start to accumulate.
right.
And so I think that would be a good goal for 2025 is, getting into that bin of all of those finished mosaic pieces,
Mm-hmm.
getting them photographed. Like some of them, many of them have already been photographed. Like, Julie, what are you doing? They've already been photographed. I literally just need to upload and, add the text and like be done with it.
Yes.
So, that's why I say 2025, I think it's going to be the year where I sort of get systems more fine tuned and get some of this stuff, out of here.
I hear you. And that makes sense. And remind me, part of your link tree, do you have an online store where people can purchase things that you've put up there for
I
sale?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I am just using Etsy as my
Mm-hmm.
online store. My website is in hopefully 2025 is going to get a full makeover. Totally different
Mm.
branding. But I was unable to control when something would sell on my website, I was unable to control the inventory.
Oh,
So if
wow.
something sold for whatever reason, it wasn't pulled out of inventory, so it stayed on the site. And so
As if it was
now,
still there.
right. And
Yeah.
so now, Etsy takes care of all of that. So, you know, hmm, I'm sure we all have our pros and cons or positives and negatives that we feel about Etsy. But for right now, that's just where I have everything, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be the end spot. I will pull it back under my control on my
Once you get that
website.
all worked out, yeah, that's
Right,
awesome.
right.
Miss Julie, you're awesome. Thank you for being such an inspiration, and love your story, love your channel. I can't wait to get this out and let everybody check you out that haven't seen you yet. But my goodness, you've got such an amazing following. That I just, applaud you for that. Brilliant
Thank you. Thank you
and
so much.
great work.
Thank you. It's been so nice meeting you.
You same here.